saying that loud. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's episode.
Yeah. 7 minutes in heaven, more like 7 minutes in heaven or hell, depending on who you ask. I have a small ass for being a Puerto Rican. You can not, it won't pass for a Puerto Rican booty, but you bet your bottom dollar it is something I'm working on. I'll be squatting and lunging every single day. I'll be working on my fitness, trying to invest in my thickness, trying to get this shit, breaking out my fucking britches. I just want a thick booty. Listen, it's my duty to make that shit beautifully a full booty. Listen, that's my duty to expand my fat ass, baby, for no reason at all. It's just my New Year's resolution, baby. Maybe I'll get some resistant bands and I'll do some old lunges in my hands. My hands, I feel my booty. I don't fill them out fully. I don't know what we're singing about, but that's what happens when I just hear a beat. It just happens to be sweet. Make that shit end neat. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2022. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, dab on them. All right? I don't know where that song came from. All right, welcome to 2022. I don't know what the fuck that was. Am I working on my fitness, my lunges, my thickness? Yeah, always. Is it something that I'm so focused on I should sing a song about it? No. But the muse sometimes comes down, connects to your boy, and we go for it. All right? And that's just what happened. And I'll never apologize for it. I'll never apologize for singing to you guys, giving you a sweet melody right off the top of the dome. Let it be known wherever I roam, I'm in the zone. When I just start ripping and dipping and slipping and tipping. What? But the tipping is going to be dangerous. You know what I'm saying? Best way to not fuck up playing just the tip. Don't play the tip. Don't even play that game. All right? It's like heroin. They always say, what's the best way to quit heroin? What's the best way to stop big, tall, white birds? Herons. Stupid Evan. That's us losing another sponsor that wasn't even there. Listen, what's the best way to quit heroin? You never stop, brother. Fuck, start. We had a stroke in the first episode. God bless it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of 2022. How the fuck are you guys living? Anything change? Any new resolutions? I don't judge. Your boy is getting better at actually trying to use a New Year's as a platform, a catapult, a diving board, a bungee, a vertical leap into new goals, new things that I want to do, new endeavors, leave some of those bad habits behind. I used to always think that it was silly to have New Year's resolutions. I don't have New Year's resolutions. What I'm doing is looking at my life as seasons, quarters, whatever you want to look at it. Because it does break it up. Dude, sometimes you just start going through the motions and everything just never stops and there's no breaks and it's just, So I'm trying to get better at structuring and, this is the end of the year and this is when we start and everything's good to go now, like setting goals and all of that. So I don't judge people about their New Year's resolutions. All right. In fact, I applaud it. It's just like most things, when a lot of people do it and they don't stick to it, you don't take it serious and you roll your eyes at it. There's 1,500 billion people who just say they're going to do something and then Sorry, I just got a business email. So fucking professional. As I spit all over the mic. Totally lost my thought. What the fuck happened? I lost my train of thought, but sometimes you just gotta keep going. No one knowing that you're close to blowing. Like, who said that? This is my favorite song to sing, and I'll never stop that. Who said that? I'm trying to fill out my speedo. Who said that? With the thickness, had the boys say, boy, you're working on your fitness. Why don't you try fitting this? Who said that? Who said that? 22 is a new year, and a new me, and a new you, and nothing else is changing. Who said that? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Listen, it wasn't all sunshines and rainbows and New Year's. What's crazy, I'm still, and forgive me for sounding so cliche, like a quote off Pinterest, I'm still trying to process 2020. All right? I ain't over that shit yet. So much so, I keep forgetting that it was 2021. I'm like, dude, it kind of felt like 2020 just ran into 2021, and we're still dealing with that residue. You know? It's been a wild time, and fuck. We were about to close out, and I'll be honest, this is the second time I've done this podcast, because about halfway through the podcast, this episode, I just glance over at the computer and I realize it hasn't been recording. So now I'm doing a completely different episode, and your boy doesn't do canned shit. So it's really hard for me to talk about something I've already talked about. But you know what? It needs to be talked about because we lost a good one. There's no way to talk about it over that beat or the emotional trauma that we dealt with. About an hour before New Year's, I see the news article. Betty fucking White. Betty White, the myth, the legend, Betty White leaves us at 99. Perfect comedic timing. All right? There was articles about how 100 years old, like there was an article in a magazine with her on the cover that said 100-year-old and comedy that waits for no one, 100 years old and keep going. Maybe we should have got confirmation on that first. But Betty White was probably like, this is going to be funny if I just dip out on them before the magazine comes out. Because now they're like, oh, well, we can't print any of these. But Betty White, that was a bummer. It was a bummer for everybody. A national treasure. And listen, I hate the people that when they're like, a celebrity dies, they're like, oh, did you know them? Yeah, I knew Betty White in my heart. Okay? I knew her in my heart. I just watched The Proposal movie with Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock recently. Betty White's the grandma in it. Phenomenal. She kills it. Everything she's ever in, Betty White kills it. All right? And it felt like why it was sad is because we were all rooting for her to reach 100 together. It was a thing, camaraderie among our society that Betty White was a national treasure. That's what made her a national treasure, is we all agreed upon it. And we all loved her. And we all wanted her to reach that milestone. And it's just like, of course, 2021. See, I keep slipping up. Of course, 2021, you're going to take away our most prized possession, Betty White. It's like, well, we got an hour left before New Year's. This year can't end any worse. And all of a sudden, 2021's like, hey, yeah, are you ready for me to really step out on y'all? Betty White, yeah, she's gone. Mine. Couldn't even give us that. And this is why I love things like this. You ever been to like a sporting event, a big thing in a movie theater where everybody claps together, or, there's a wave going and it's kind of like we're all in this together? Betty White represented that, where we all were rooting for Betty White. It's the same thing that the reason why I love live comedy is because when I say a certain joke that I think is funny, and it might not be true, but the entire room, we laugh at it in a certain way together, it's a big confirmation that, oh yeah, we are all, we all get this. We're all in on the joke. You're all my people, my tribe. And that's what I feel like Betty White was. You're like, Evan, you've talked about this way too long. I could do a whole podcast. The Betty White episode. Welcome to it. All right. The Betty White episode. A great woman, from what I've read. She did a lot of great stuff early on in her career. For racial equality. There was that one story about her and there's a young African-American man who was a tap dancer and they didn't want to have him on a show. Listen, that's how you know this is an old-ass story, because this dude was a tap dancer. If someone told me they were a tap dancer now, I'd be like, oh, okay, what other useless skills do you possess? You out here slinging AOL internet CDs? I've got 500 hours of free AOL internet. You out here repping Beanie Babies? But they weren't going to allow this young African-American gentleman to tap dance on the show. And Betty White was like, nah, fuck that. He's on the show, and you guys fucking deal with it. Cancel the whole show then. And she called their bluff. And they didn't cancel it, and the young man got to go perform. Tappity, tappity, tap, tap, tap. And that's why I love things like that. When you hear these stories of people actually doing things and it being real. It's not just social media venting. It's not just social media virtue signaling. It's actually taking action on it. It's actually risking something. That's why so much on social media is weird, because there's no risk. It doesn't take a lot of action. It's instant, and it's a weird thing. And that's the whole thing about social media. Whenever someone just gives their opinion, that's why my whole thing with life and the way that I judge characters is off of actions. I could give two shits about what someone says, about what someone posts, about the way that in these small glimpses on social media of a curation of your life. There's not people, and even me, I try, pretty much I keep everything on social media online, just jokes, nothing too serious, drop a gem if I can. If I got something I think could help people, put that out. But other than that, I'm just trying to entertain. This is me understanding that social media is not real. It's not a real place. And it's like, when you see other people's social media, their lives, it's a curation of what they want you to think their life is. I don't know how many guys I've seen post about the grind and just all this stuff, and it's constantly just blah, 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 all this stuff they got going on. They're literally posting what you want people to think your life is. And then there's so many just posting to where you think this is what people are going to like, and it just makes everything kind of look the same. And it's a weird world, isn't it? It's weird also because we're starting to get into a deeper world into that. Like with the metaverse and virtual reality and just this online thing that we're creating that's completely getting detached from reality. And it's weird because everything's growing and changing. I look at, I was watching a show and they were talking about online bullying and everything. And it's like, dude, the cyber bullying is insane. It's insane for a lot of reasons, because there's everyday people walking around with these like burner troll accounts that are just saying the worst, most fucked up things that you could say to someone. And they're going around with zero consequences for the way they're talking. I've gotten better at dealing with that, where if someone's making a joke, or if they're just, there's something that is valid about something I said, cool. I'm all open to it. I'm not someone who, if someone has a negative comment, I just delete it automatically if there's anything valid in it. And if they're a real person. But I get these comments sometimes where there's just the weirdest shit. And I'm like, this is such a weird projection. Your account with no picture. And I'm like, and you're not a real human. I can't take you serious because you would never say this in person. And you only do it through being hidden. You don't want any consequences. And it's like you see this with people commenting on social media, but it's such a detachment from what reality is. And I think that's something that needs to be corrected in the sense of consequences. There should be no free lunch in life. In no situation with humans could someone get away with that in the past. In the sense of you can talk freely to everybody and anybody you want and have access to certain people and not have consequences. And sometimes those consequences are like, hey, I don't have to be around you anymore. You don't get to come to these things or whatever. That consequence doesn't happen because people just can say whatever they want. It's a weird fucking thing. And then it gets weirder when we start going into these virtual worlds, and it's going to get even more detached from it, from reality. And there's like part of me where it's like, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Is this going to be a good thing because people who don't have a lot of connection are going to start feeling connected and included in things and have outlets and the ability to have social interactions? That's the case. Fucking phenomenal. It's great. But is it going to be another social media world where you're feeling so fulfilled in one aspect of your life that's completely artificial, but you're suffering completely in your real life? Look at like the problems with porn and everything. And that's like something that I've done my best to start getting away from, is porn at all. And just, it's a completely false sense of, what's the word I'm looking for? Gratitude isn't the right word. Why does that word keep coming in my head right now? Gratification. I was close. But it's like it's a completely false, superficial level of gratification. It's almost like, I don't even know what the analogy would be. I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, like how dangerous and just addictive and all this dopamine release and everything without any work. And there's a reward system, but it's like diet life. There's no real reward system. And I think it's the same thing with social media when you get likes and, unless you're monetizing it and everything like that, it's like, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't equate into real world reward systems, but they can be detrimental to your personal life. Like, did you get lost down that porn rabbit hole? Your own relationship's going to suffer. Your reality versus fantasy is going to suffer because you're going to start thinking, oh, this is real life. This is what real life should be. And if it's not, real life is falling short and I'm falling short in my life, So you start blending where reality is and where fantasy is. And it's like a weird thing. And I'm not just talking about porn anymore. All right. We're kind of getting off of that. This isn't a porn addict podcast. This ain't no PAP, porn addict podcast. Maybe I'll start that as a spinoff. Anyway. But expectations, that's probably been the biggest thing with reality and growing up that I've learned and applied to my life. Whenever I start thinking that the grass is greener or just expectations of what something should be, when you're a kid, you have this expectation of what life is. You have these expectations that are placed by movies and TV shows and Disney and all these things of even what a relationship is supposed to be. And then you have it with fulfillment and jobs and everything. So you think like, oh, I need this and I need to do that. And once I reach this will happen. But it's like, it's a false thing. Like, dude, part of me, even when I moved into a house, I thought, now once I'll be in the house, then it'll be good and I'll be able to start working on this and working on that. And it's like, no, you move in. It's like, no, now you just have a new set of responsibilities and you need to keep working on all this other stuff you were doing. And realizing that reality is completely different than what you think reality is. That's another huge thing. That's why I always thought martial arts are great. Some of the best people that I know, some of my best friends, the most humble, kind people are people in jiu-jitsu. Boxing too, MMA too, but there's something about jiu-jitsu and the reality of getting strangled on a daily basis and having your ego checked and being in tune with reality and struggling with reality daily. It's a great thing. It humbles you, and it also makes you in touch with reality. And some of the most well-adjusted people that I can be around are people who do jiu-jitsu. Some of the worst people to be around are the people that are so out of touch with reality when it comes to any kind of martial arts or fighting or stuff like that. Dude, the people that think that they're just a beast and that they're, I just black out and I just see red and I fucking go for it. Those people are the hardest people to be around. Or the people who do some weird off-brand karate that is just derived from one snake oil guy to the next, and then he's got his own, this is Tai Mekara Chi, some shit. And then it's just like, what? He's like, yeah, if I just touch you, you're fucking dead, bro. Those people. I'm like, oh, you got such a weird version of reality because it hasn't been tested, you know? And that whole idea of reality versus what you think reality is brings me back to social media. And it brings me back to like a lot of the virtue signaling. And especially right now with like all the mandates and the vaccines and everything going on, people's reality versus what reality is are two different things. You see it a lot with younger people, especially with not a lot of life experience, not a lot of looking at the other side, that you see so much ideology and so much of their own version of what reality should be versus is that reality even possible? When people start talking about defund the police, when people start talking about vaccine mandates, this is what it should be. Everybody should get vaccinated. And if you don't, you're an asshole, blah, blah, blah. When the reality is we don't even have a vaccine. Probably going to get flagged for that shit. But the reality is this isn't a vaccine by definition. People aren't getting vaccinated. What they're doing is they're having something that is giving them a small defense against this virus. By definition, it's not. When you see all the corruption with the FDA and everything, and you're literally, this is the whole side of it too. Let's say it was completely perfect vaccine. There's no issues with it. If there's a mandate, okay, well, we just gave over our rights for our own personal health care and liberty. Where does that stop? You think in a perfect world that these companies, that their job is to create problems so they can sell you a solution, they're just going to do their best with it. They're not going to have the next thing come in. They're not going to have the next thing after that come in where it's like, no, well, you should get vaccinated for this. You need to get this booster, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, what do we need to do? We need to sell them more fear. It's that kind of shit. Mixed in with the whole defund the police, when people were saying, defund the police, blah, blah, we should be having, mental health care workers going out on these jobs. Dude, it's all great and dandy when you say that. And then the reality sets in of crime is on the rise everywhere that they defunded the police. More issues are happening. We need to take away guns and all these gun laws. And in those places where the gun laws were super strict, like Australia, they've completely controlled their society. Try to Google videos of Australia. It's even hidden on Google of all the protests that are going down in Australia because of the mandates and because they just have full reign of their citizens. And I'm not some extreme, gun rights person or anti-vax. That's the thing is like, dude, life is a variable and people want it to be super simple. So it's like you either have to be one thing or another. So it's very easy to paint a picture where you're like, you're an anti-vaxxer. No, I care so much about personal health. So much. Your boy is always trying to optimize. So much so I try to eat good. I try to work out as much as possible, do the sauna, recovery, get enough sleep, all because I care about my health so much more. Ironically, I probably care about my health more than 99% of the people that are trying to tell people to take the vaccine. You know, it's just like life is fucking weird right now. Just like this podcast episode. This was supposed to be a comedy podcast. But right now it is cold as shit in Texas. As you can see, I'm wearing a jacket. No song for that. I'm wearing a jacket indoors. A winter storm across the nation is what is going on. It's kind of wild. Last night, it reached 20 degrees in Texas. New things in my life I never thought I would experience. Putting covers over water spigots because now I'm a homeowner and I have to be worried about my pipes freezing. There was a rainstorm the other night, wind and everything in the middle of the night. And I'm over here thinking, great, I got to wake up and I got to go look to make sure, you know, there's no flooding or anything going on. And I got to make sure everything's draining right. Like Jesus Christ. I'm old as fuck, ladies and gentlemen. Old as fuck. But this winter storm is coming, all right? And if you've been living under a rock, then you know that last year in February, or you don't know, sorry. In February in Texas, there was a freeze where the grid almost failed and snowstorm in Texas, and it was just nuts. They're saying that was like a once in I don't know how many years storm, but Texas is pretty cold. And the reality is, I wonder if something similar is going to happen. Wouldn't it be nuts if back to back that happened? I'm not, you know, a weatherologist, but it's getting kind of cold. And that's going to be interesting. And it has me wondering if I should be stocking up, if I need to get a generator, some heating blankets, I don't know, maybe a couple cans of soup. Good soup, you know? But I'll be honest with you. One thing I realize about Texans cannot handle cold. They can't. At least in these kind of areas. Go to perform at like an outdoor venue or something with comedy. No one to be found. They just don't handle the cold too well. All right? Maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea if we California Texas a little bit then, huh? Maybe bump the T up a little bit, or the C up, Celsius for your brainiacs. All right? I always find that interesting. The whole don't Texas my California. I've heard it way too much. Granted, it's said a lot in tongue in cheek. But Texas, you guys, what's with the not being able to handle the cold? The summers aren't really that bad here either. That was like a whole thing. I don't get why. I guess because maybe I come from the Antelope Valley. I come from a desert. I come a place that gets very hot in the summers and very cold in the winters. All right? I love the Texas heat. Why? Because you sweat. Get that swamp butt going on. I'm all about it, ladies and gentlemen. I don't mind a little bit of beads of sweat dropping down the crack. Get me all loosey-goosey, making my willy tingle, you know? But in reality, I enjoy a good sweat. It's good for your body, you know? I also like living in a place that does have changing in temperatures. It's reality. You actually get to experience the seasons. Sometimes I think when you have a base level of 80 degrees, like I had in Ventura, you just, okay, all right. If it gets a little windy, you turn into a little bitch. You're just like, ugh. But what was always scary about Ventura was the risk of fires. That's a crazy thing to be worried about. And it was a reality where, you know, the year before I moved to this place, it was evacuated. And then we had fires every year where you could see them coming down the mountaintop. And you were like, oh, great. And the winds were reaching like 65 miles an hour, 70. And it was just like everything blowing everywhere. And then the power would go out. And that's kind of crazy because there's no just waiting out a fire. at least if it freezes, or crazy flooding, things like that, you can kind of wait it out. You can bundle up. You can't really bundle up in a fire. You're going to end up getting roasted if you didn't notice. But I'm interested to see Texas the next couple months. I arrived here in April last year, so I missed the winter, you could say. And so I didn't get to experience it. So I'm excited to experience the winter here. Listen, I'm someone who likes to sleep cold. I don't do well sleeping in the heat. So I'm excited to not have to run the AC unit at night. All right. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to this episode. I hope there was something in there. We got a little weird. We're talking about reality versus their reality. I don't know what the fuck we were talking about. All right. But listen, ever since Betty White passed away, ever since heaven got another angel, I just ain't been right. All right. That was just fucked up 2021 to do to us. All right. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for those who comment, those who like, subscribe, those who share it with a friend. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a great week. I hope you get after it. I hope you set some goals and just fucking attack that shit. All right. Sometimes the key with setting goals is setting goals, removing things that aren't helping you get towards your goals. Listen, I'll be honest with you. Your boy has a vice. One of my vices is I like Diet Coke. So what did I do? I went, you know what? I need to cut Diet Cokes out. So in itself, by setting a goal to remove something, I have a new goal. Sometimes it's not so much about new things you got to add. It's removing those bad habits. It's removing those vices. I get stuck on social media. Sometimes I just start flipping through. Got to remove it. Not so much adding, removing. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, no matter what, I still love you.